How you going, guys? And in this video, let's talk about Ramana Maharshi and the teaching he's most well known for, abiding in the self. Whenever the mind goes out into the world, bring it back and abide in the self. This teaching sounds so easy in theory. In a safe, comfortable room, when we hear teachings like this, just abide in the self. Give up all this spiritual practice. Why do it? Just abide in the self. Whenever the mind goes out, bring it back. Whenever the mind goes out, bring it back. Safe, comfortable room, easy, of course. But if you're anything like me, in my initial stages on the spiritual path, I stumbled across the teachings of Ramana, heard this well-known teaching and thought, what's all this meditation I'm doing? All this other spiritual practice? All I need to do is abide in the self. Apparently easy, until you realize it's not. And that's why many beginners don't know this about Ramana. There was a book he released or was written down inspired by his teachings. It's called the Upadesa Saram. You'll see it here. It's basically outlining the four main paths to spiritual liberation. What are those four paths? Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Raja Yoga. If that sounds familiar, it should, because they're the four practices also found in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, the book that has changed my life personally, and if you're new to my videos, I'm covering this book chapter to chapter slowly. I have a Bhagavad Gita playlist, walking through beginners that may be unfamiliar with it and what these texts are truly pointing to. But getting back to Ramana Maharshi, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can learn to abide in the self, what that truly means and how to do it. And many of you perhaps won't like this because it's going to take work. I know many people want to take a shortcut. I've tried it. That's why I can talk about all this. I was the worst student on this path. That's why I've got a lot to say about it, because I would make every error you could possibly imagine. So if we truly want to abide in the self, as Ramana Maharshi was saying, most people are going to need spiritual practice. And it's not as hard as you think. Don't worry. First of all, here's what we need to realize. Our natural default state of being is abiding in the self. That's our natural state. But what happens is, through habit, through conditioning, since we were young, or through many lifetimes, if you believe in reincarnation, our mind has the habit of going out, not abiding in the self. Picture this as your true self, and this is your mind. This is the state Ramana Maharshi is trying to get us into. Anchoring the mind at the source at all times. But what does our mind have a habit and tendency of doing? Going out into the world. Why does this happen? Because we think we have ownership and control. We think we own and control things. We have the mind of selfishness. Now, it's not the selfishness that we regularly think about. Oh, that person's so self-centered, so selfish. We naturally are selfish because we think I'm this person living a life. So the mind naturally moves away from the source, goes out into the world, thinks it has ownership and control. What's the primary teaching of Ramana Maharshi? Whenever the mind goes out, bring it back. Whenever the mind goes out, bring it back. And this is why he recommended the practices in that book, the Upadesa Saram. And one of the key practices is Karma Yoga, which is the main theme of the Bhagavad Gita. Why Karma Yoga is so powerful is it takes your everyday life, whatever you're doing in everyday life, and turns the mind selfless slowly. Why do we chase things in the world or chase spirituality? What's everyone doing? We're all seeking happiness. There's billions of people doing billions of things, but why are we all doing it? Happiness. Either it's bringing happiness now or it will bring happiness in the future. So what we need to realize with the practice of Karma Yoga is keep doing what you're doing. Still go to work, raise your family, live your life, but slowly turn the mind from selfishness to selflessness. And how would we do this? Instead of thinking, I'm doing this for me and mine, I'm doing this for my happiness, my family's happiness, my friend's happiness. I'm very worried about what happens because if it goes well, I'm very happy. If it goes wrong, I'm very miserable. And when things go well, I'm in fear because when I gain something, now I'm scared of losing it. All this fear and desiring the results of our actions comes from ownership and control. Thinking there's happiness in the world. So what must we do under the practices of karma yoga? Turn the mind selfless. Realize I did not create this world. I do not control this world. I did not create this body. I do not ultimately control this body. I feel like I do, but that's the topic of another video. But ultimately realize this world was given to us. We don't create or control anything. Once you develop that mindset, you still go to work, still raise your family, still do your studies, still do whatever, but now the mind is turned outwardly, selflessly. And you know what this does? Ramana said, abide in the self. And now you're telling me, focus on the world? Isn't it about detaching? Staying away? Whenever the mind goes out, stay away? No, by still actively engaging in the world, but thinking I'm doing this as a service to God, not for me, it's for God. Whatever happens, none of my concern. My whole goal is to perform the actions, whether it goes good or bad, none of my concern. What does this do? Naturally makes the mind abide in the self. The mind only goes out into the world because it thinks it's separate and there's happiness in it. When you start realizing I have no ownership and control, the mind naturally just sits in the self. It only goes out again because you think you've got ownership and control and you think the world will give you happiness. When you realize the true source of happiness is abiding in the self, this world has nothing to do with me, but I still need to perform actions. You still perform actions, but you're not doing it for happiness anymore. That's the essence of karma yoga. And if you don't believe me, let's go to the Bhagavad Gita. Let's read this verse. Chapter 4, verse 26, if I'm not mistaken. You'll see it there. Now, this verse is obviously a part of several other verses where Krishna is describing all the ways to sacrifice to him to achieve liberation. That's why the start of this verse is going to sound confusing, but I'll read it and just quickly explain it. Others offer hearing and other senses in the sacrificial fire of restraint. Still others offer sound and other objects of the senses as sacrifice in the fire of the senses. What he's basically saying, just quickly, some offer hearing and other senses. The person that says, look, I'm detaching from life. I don't want to see anything, hear anything, taste, touch, smell anything. That mindset of detachment, not getting involved in the world. Some offer that, abiding in the self through detachment, avoidance. What many people try to do and fail miserably. Detaching, withdrawing, stay away from me. I'm abiding in the self. Some offer that, and it is a path to liberation, but it is very difficult. Other people offer sound and other objects of the senses, as Krishna was saying. What is that practice? Karma yoga. Not withdrawing from life, recoiling from people in life, actively. Remember what Advaita Vedanta is saying, if you're into these teachings. This reality is the one fabric appearing separate. What you're trying to cut yourself off from, what you're trying to avoid, is the very fabric you're made from. This reality, the fabric of it is God. So why are you trying to avoid and escape God? All that's required, get involved in the world. See God or divinity in the people that you're interacting with. Whenever you're serving anyone, see God in them. Whenever anyone's serving you, see God in them. Have a loving, patient, non-reactive vibe. You're only experiencing God. What does that do? The mind apparently is going outwardly, but it's selfless. So paradoxically, by going outwardly with the mind and thinking I'm not doing this for me or mind, the mind goes outwardly, but ironically, paradoxically, it's abiding in the self. When the mind is selfless, it naturally abides in the self and you're still active in life. That's the whole teaching and beauty of karma yoga. But also, you still need to withdraw the senses from certain sense objects. It's so easy to say, oh, cool, I'm just going to rob a bank. I'm going to party. I'm going to sleep around and offer it to Krishna. There's a catch with this teaching. Do whatever you're supposed to be doing, but do it in an ethical way. That's another catch. You can't rob a bank and say, I'm devoting this to Krishna. That's another quick catch. Do whatever you're doing in life, but do it in an ethical, moral way. And yes, you can do what you want if others consent to it. But the thing is, it's so easily to get attached to sense objects. sex, drugs, money. Technically, you could if no one's being harmed, but our mind is so easily attached to these type of sense objects. So there's another line in the Bhagavad Gita. You'll see it there. Chapter 2, verse 58. One who is able to withdraw the senses from their objects, just like a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell, is established in divine wisdom. So Krishna is saying, move around this life offering all your actions as a service to me, but there's certain things where it's strongly recommended to withdraw your limbs from. Things that can develop strong addiction and attachment. Be very moderate with sexual encounters, drugs, alcohol, because the mind goes out to them very quick and can get attached easily. So certain scenarios, the mind needs to be withdrawn, like a tortoise withdraws its limbs. But other than that, live your life in moderation. Do what's required of you. But with the mindset of selflessness, that naturally keeps the mind abiding in the self. That's what Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita. That is also what Ramana Maharshi is saying in the Upadesa Saram. So just to review this video, if you like the teachings of Ramana, abiding in the self, whenever the mind goes out, abide in the self, if you can do that, good on you. But for someone like me, I would listen to these teachings in a safe, comfortable room and forget them in the midst of daily life. The only thing that worked for me was the practice of karma yoga, which is keep doing what you're doing. Withdraw your attention from things that can be very addictive, of course. Abide in the self in those scenarios. But the rest of the time, just go about life making the mind selfless. With the mindset of selflessness, surrender, gratitude, you naturally abide in the self. Again, remember, why does our mind go out into the world as the regular person? Because we think, I'm a separate person in a separate world. I feel incomplete and there's happiness out there. So I'm going to do this for my happiness or my family's happiness or my friends. But when you realize the true source of happiness is when the mind is anchored in the source, but still you need to perform actions in this life. That's the whole point of karma yoga. Still be active in the world, but don't think this world is a source of happiness. This world here is for knowledge, entertainment, and to transact with it. You need food, shelter, water. You need some entertainment. If you want a family, you need a partner. This has nothing to do with happiness. The world's to transact with. Your true source of happiness, peace, and fulfillment is found by keeping the mind fixed at the source, your true self, God. So again, keep doing what you're doing, but keep the mind attached to God. And how do you do that again? By remembering, I did not create this world. I did not create this body. I did not create these thoughts and feelings. Ultimately, the feeling of free will is an illusion, but while you still feel like you have free will, freely offer all these actions as a service to God and you'll automatically abide in the self. No effort required. Spiritual practice is the way of doing this gradually, not through brute force of stay away from me, I'm recoiling, I'm detaching. It's starting where you're at, thinking I'm a person living a life, I have desires, I want happiness. Start there, then slowly introduce karma yoga. That's the beauty of the spiritual path. Spiritual practice sounds like a chore in the beginning, but ultimately you realize this is actually a pleasure. This actually feels like what we're supposed to be doing as people. Being selfless, devotional, humble, surrendered. Oh, sigh of relief. Hope this video helps. Take care.